We're going to go through a cable Zercher Jefferson curl dynamic isometric. So for this exercise, I'll set up the cable machine with the attachment at the bottom. I've got a straight bar attachment. This is an exercise that you could perform standing, seated. You could play with where you attach this particular cable in terms of it changing the line of force when it pulls you. I'm going to demonstrate this exercise standing. Now the focus is very much the spine, so I want you to try and think with terms of the pelvis. Everything from pelvis below stays as still as possible. So essentially we're trying to minimize anteriorly, posteriorly pelvic tilting. We're trying to minimize the amount of knee bending we're putting into this movement. However, due to the nature of the exercise, there will be some degree of compensation. There will be some degree of pelvic rotation, pelvic tilting. What I ask is that you just don't make that the focus of the exercise. So I'm going to demonstrate a few reps as I'm going through the motion and also explain a little bit of what I'm thinking about. But before I begin, essentially the movements are going to be eccentrically going into spinal flexion. As I'm working my way down the spine, I want to apply various movements. So I can apply rotation of the spine. I can also apply side bending, so lateral flexion of the spine as well. And I'm going to be doing this in combination as I slowly segmentally work my way down the spine. So I'll go through a couple of reps. I squat down, I set my arms up in that Zercher position, and then I'll deadlift to come up to stand. Set my feet up in the comfortable stance I want to begin with, and then I said from that point on, pelvis below stays as still as possible. I begin the exercise by segmentally flexing the spine starting from the neck, and then I start to apply those movements I mentioned. So I'm in the upper thoracic region right now. I'm trying to apply slight movement just to that area. And I work my way down. I'm spending a bit of time in this upper thoracic region, moving in different areas, applying rotation, applying lateral flexion. And then as I'm starting to fatigue a little bit, I work my way down a few more vertebrae, continuing to flex, continuing to apply rotation in combination with side flexion, just organically moving around. And the intent is to try and explore various areas as possible that this spine can move into, challenging the connective tissues as well around the spine. I move slow as well, because I'm trying to pay attention to how capable what's being challenged, what's being loaded is. Vertebrae by vertebrae, constantly trying to move into different areas, trying to challenge different tissues. As I get into a lower back, same as before, I'm seeing what movements can I apply down here. How does those connective tissues around the lower back feel to be loaded in such a way? And then when I feel I get to my end, I'll let the rack set back on, squat down, and then if I'm going to perform a second rep and so, I'll lift the chest up, deadlift to come back up, and then move into my second rep. So, just to recap, as I'm performing this exercise, segmentally moving through spinal flexion. As I work my way down the spine, I'm applying various motions into it with the spine. So rotation, side bending, and those two in combination as I move through flexion. And again, I demonstrated standing, but this can be done seated. You can change also the height of the cable machine.